Hi, I'm Daniel Ventura. I'm a WBFF pro, actor, fitness model, and level 3 advanced personal trainer. Now, I've been training for over 20 years now, and here's a few things that I wish I could have known when I was a younger man. I first started training in the gym when I was 18 years old. And typically, like most guys, all I was interested in was a six-pack, a big chest and big arms. And what did I do? I knew pretty much nothing, so I used to copy the biggest and best looking guy in the gym and just follow their lead. Looking back now, I wish that I knew that every muscle in the body is important. As an easy example, if you overwork your chest will get bigger, but your chest will also get tighter. And what can also happen is that your chest will start to contract. And if you do no work on your rhomboids or your back, your shoulders will start to slump forward, and then you become an awkward, funny shape. So it's very, very important to exercise every single muscle in the body and don't concentrate on one particular body part. So if I could have told myself a few years ago, Dan, if you train your rhomboids, your chest will get bigger, I'd have been much better off back then. So this is why whenever I get a new client, I plan their workouts, whether it be chest and bicep, back and triceps, abs, legs, but give them a format and a structure to follow to ensure that at the end of the month, they can see a physical difference. Another thing I wish I'd have known as a younger man is macros and a perfect macro split and how to eat food properly. Of course, protein, fat and carbohydrate are three separate macros. They do different things to the body. And as a younger man, your body has got such high amounts of testosterone and human growth hormone. You could literally eat a dirty burger and your body will take the best parts of that dirty burger and help you build muscle. But if I'd have had a structured food plan with calories calculated, macros calculated perfectly, 100% my body would have been about 10 times better if I'd have given it the right fuel. So this is something when I get a new client, I make sure that they understand the concept of macros and macro ratios and also how many calories that they're taking in and how many calories they're burning to ensure that they get the results that they want. One thing when I was younger, I did have a lot more energy because when you're younger, you tend to do have a lot more energy. You've got a lot more hormones running around your body. So of course your stamina is far greater. One problem with that though is that you don't give yourself a rest day. And when I was younger, I didn't believe in a rest day. I thought rest days were for wimps, train 7 days a week and you're a tough guy. But now understanding how the body works, and of course, especially stress hormones like cortisol, it can be very detrimental if you don't have a rest day. So nowadays, as an older man, more mature man, I make sure that I have at least 1 or 2 days a week so my cortisol levels don't rise up and I don't stress my body out. Also, rest is imperative if you want to build muscle. You build muscle when you're sleeping. You're not building muscle when you're standing up, breathing and working out. It's only when you go to bed that your body releases testosterone, human growth hormone, and it repairs the muscle that you've damaged during the day. So if your sleep isn't sufficient, if you don't get enough rest, you're not going to build muscle and you're not going to burn fat. So it's important to get those Zs in. When I was 18, all I cared about was getting as big as possible, as quickly as possible. So of course, what did I do? I lifted the heaviest weights, and instead of using correct form and doing proper exercise, I'd end up swinging weights around and using centrifugal force as opposed to actual physical strength. This of course was futile because it didn't make me stronger and it didn't make me bigger at all. Now, this is what a lot of people call ego lifting. Now, I'm pleased to say, as a mature man, I've got nothing to prove to anyone. I don't have to show off and show someone that I can lift 200 kilos and impress someone else. All I care about is what makes me feel good, what makes me feel strong, and what makes me healthier. So rather than lifting big, heavy weights that are going to put a strain on my joints, I much prefer lighter weights, do more repetitions, do slower movements, slower eccentric, isometric moves to help me build muscle, but not put any strain on my joints, not put any strain, and of course, lastly, not to tear any muscle, which of course is very common if you lift something too heavy. So when I was younger, I was well aware that stretching was an important part of exercise, but did I do it? Hell no. I thought it was for girls and for people that weren't taking fitness seriously. Now, as an older man, I've studied stretching and the importance of stretching and fully understand why it is such an imperative part to a training regime. To give you an example of one of my clients that I trained recently, when he was younger, he did a lot of ego lifting, as did I when I was very young, and predominantly his biceps. He wanted to get bigger biceps. Now, if you look at the biceps, when you do a curl, obviously it's very evident that when you do a contraction, you're squashing that muscle and you're shortening the muscle in its length. So the muscle fibers are being pushed to one side. So you will create, with enough resistance and enough force, micro tears in those muscle fibers. Now, when you go to sleep at night, those muscle fibers fuse back together and you get a thin layer of scar tissue in between those fibers. But what happens if you don't do an adequate stretch in the opposite direction? The muscle fibers will slowly but surely fuse together shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, to the extent that this poor guy, he built up his muscle, and don't get me wrong, he had big biceps, but the biceps were short and they weren't very flexible at all. So this poor guy was walking around with arms that he couldn't straighten. Okay, so that's something you want to avoid at all costs. So my tip for you is, when you do exercises, and when I do exercise, if you're training a particular muscle, stretch in between. So if you do a bicep exercise, you want to get your arm behind you like that, so you're stretching. Okay, so if you can put your hands on a windowsill and then lean down, or if you want an easier version, just pull your hands back like that to stretch the muscle. And similarly with chest, you want to get your arms behind you or arm up against the door, legs, quadriceps. So my tip is stretch every muscle immediately after working it, and in between sets as well. Now, it's been shown that if you do stretch in between exercises, so for example, if I do a bicep curl and stretch it immediately afterwards, you can generate up to 30% more size and strength in that same muscle simply by stretching it in between sets. So give that a go, and I'm sure you'll be pleased with the results. As a young lad, I used to think that supplements were imperative to building muscle and getting the body that you want. But after years of taking supplements that have done absolutely nothing, I've come to the realization that there's a plethora of supplements out there that are absolutely no good. So luckily for me, after years of taking supplements, I've been able to sort the good from the bad and work out for myself what actually makes me feel a physical difference. Now, there are a few supplements that now I take and recommend to all my clients. Super 8 Udo's Choice, which is a probiotic, which helps me keep my digestion working perfectly. I never feel bloated, and of course I have regular occurrences, if you know what I mean. ZMA M3 by Puri, or used to be called Pure Pharma, is something that will elicit a testosterone boost when you're sleeping. That makes me feel great. I can't live without that one. And also Regenerative, which is the shake that I started taking about 6 months earlier this year. This is something that I can see and feel a physical difference. Now, even things like skin, hair and nails, things that I wasn't really bothered by, now that they're improving because of this particular supplement, I'm actually glad that they are. So there's only a few supplements that I would recommend out there. And one thing that I wish I could tell a young Daniel is, don't waste your money on supplements that don't work. So there's one thing that I would have loved to have told a younger version of myself, and that is to change your routine regularly. Now, when I was young, obviously my knowledge on fitness and exercise was very limited. So I knew one range of exercises, and I used to do the same exercises time and time again. Now, of course, what happens to the human body is very clever. If you take prescription drugs, alcohol, drugs, food, even exercise, your body will get used to whatever is thrown at it. And then after a while, it stops to work. So with exercise, if you do something in the same routine for more than 4 weeks, you will reach what's called a plateau, and your body will stop reacting to it, and your body will stop building muscle as a consequence. One way to avoid this is by changing up the routine every 4 weeks. Now, it's been shown in previous studies that 4 weeks is a good sort of time frame to change a plan round, because you're reaching the point just about when you're going to reach a plateau. But just before you enter that stagnant plateau, you give your body a new stimulus, a new set of exercises, and of course you're going to stimulate new muscle growth. And of course, there's nothing to stop you going back to your original workout program to get those same significant gains. So remember, change your plan regularly and don't do it for too long.